My name is Dawn Rickabaugh. This is Property and Paper Live. I'm your host, and I'm the owner of NoteQueen.com and Q Capital, company that buys both property and paper. And I'm a seller finance expert using seller financing to both buy property and sell property, as well as buy other people's notes that are created out of those transactions. So when you guys see, if you notice on social media where every time I'm announcing this event, this monthly event, I always have a picture that my son created for me years ago, because I've always said this is the dance between property and paper that we all need to learn the steps to. Whether you're a professional, you want to say rescue commissions that are going in the toilet, you want to work with buyers that nobody else can. If you got a buyer with, and this isn't, I'm not even joking, I get these deals brought to me saying, look, I got this buyer, he's got 40% down, but he can't get a bank loan right now, self-employed. And I guess I can't get this guy a loan or at a house. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Especially in this market and in most markets, it's just that your eyes aren't open to the possibility. So I know I touched on this last month, but I keep getting questions about it. Like we asked exactly how last month we covered exactly how do I get owner financing? Well, the long and short of it is, number one, wake up and know that there's an option. People can, home sellers, property owners can lend you their equity the same way someone like David, our sexy librarian, can write you a big fat check if he wants to give you a loan. Someone can lend you not money out of their bank account necessarily, but the equity, the money that's trapped inside their property. They can lend that, and the paperwork is the same. You still get, and why do we call, and I know I'm just like rambling on. I do this. I just have like, woo, we just go everywhere. Okay, paper. Why do we call this the paper business? Because it's written on paper. The things that we buy and sell, it's written on a piece of paper. Right. And so when a bank makes a loan, you sign a piece of paper. I promise to pay. And if I don't, deed of trust or mortgage, you can take my house. Okay. That means foreclosure. A private person, regular person can do it. And my whole thing is these days that are here and are coming, depending on what part of the country you live in, if let's just say there's nothing more than just a slow grind to the downside, right? Then these strategies, and let's say liquidity dries up, or there isn't some big rescue, or low rates don't fix the problem, right? In Canada, I would highly suggest you guys follow Adam Taggart, Thoughtful Money, on YouTube. I love his content. He had an amazing guest named Danielle Park. She's a Canadian wealth manager, and it's really bad in Canada, a lot worse than here. Basically, the properties are sitting on the market unsold. So they had like 2% rates for a while, for a long while, a bunch of money. Instead of going into other venture capital and equity plays, they went into real estate, because where else can you make a 10% year-over-year return, right? And so, but now you've got all these people that they're stuck in $1 million, $2 million homes, and nobody's buying, right? A gal I was on the phone with yesterday, we were having a little thing. She goes, we've been in a different group together. And what's this thing you keep talking about? I don't understand what you're saying. I don't get it. I don't get it. So we were talking, and she goes, everyone I know, especially the young people, are like, hey, we'll never buy. We'll never get to buy. We're screwed. And you know what? I do agree. You have not been set up for success at this point. And for most people who are just looking at a 3.5% down payment FHA loan, you better wait in most markets. Now, some markets are in free fall. We've got places in Florida, not, that's shifting quickly. Texas, areas in Texas are shifting quickly. And 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 even the Midwest and some of the Northeast, typically very resilient areas of the country, are also starting to show cracks. But there again, you're going to have the NAR and everybody else, the lobbyists, say how, real estate will never go down. Does anyone been alive since 2007, 2008, 2009, 2009? I mean, it's just ridiculous. I would tell my kids, you know what? Now, I would say to these young people, how come a boomer like me got into crypto early? If you would have bought a couple Bitcoin just a few years, I mean, you could buy cash any house you wanted, right? So look at the opportunities that are in front of you right now. To make a little bit of money go a long way. I wouldn't say it's the same rules anymore. Just do anything you can to get into a house and hang on for dear life and all that. Unless you got phenomenal owner carry terms that are better than a bank would give you, which it's out there, right? Don't sit around and mope that the system given, robbed you of these opportunities. They kind of did, I'm going to say. And as boomers, people over 60 own 80% of the equity, control 80% of the real estate equity in the country. I just heard that this week. But guess what? We get old and we want cash flow and we don't want to manage properties. So, I mean, really, there should be a way for us to help the next generation with that. And also, a lot of us are going to be dying off in the next 10 years. And then all those heirs and beneficiaries, they're going to want to sell those properties. So we'll probably just have more and more properties coming on the market. And the young people, don't have the opportunity, a lot of them in general, to buy these expensive houses that will become golden sarcophaguses for them. Back to this comment on YouTube and the gal I was talking to yesterday. She said, Dawn, everyone's locked out. And I go, yeah, I'm sorry, a lot of people are, but invest in other things, get your wind under you, what's undervalued right now? How can you make more income and do that? But there's an awful lot of people who have a big down payment, but they can't or won't get a bank loan. Do you know why builders are selling more inventory than the resale of existing homes? Who knows why? Why are builders selling more homes?
Incentives.
Like what?
Amenities and buy downs on the loans, on the loan rates.
So you're telling me to get their price or just to move inventory because they're seeing the writing on the wall. This isn't like, oh, I'm in love with my development. They don't want to keep it for a pet rock. They need to make money, right? So they're getting the memo. So what David's saying, maybe they're not doing the owner financing, but they are. In some cases they are, and in some cases they're actually just saying we're going to rent. We can't even get out our seed capital. We're going to just turn this whole subdivision into rentals. But they're buying down rates. So instead of someone having to get a 6.5 or 7, what's the going rate? I don't know what it is, 6.5, 7% right now. Yeah. They're getting you 5%. I don't know if it's 30 years, might be only 5. But if you're a buyer, you got to buy a new home or an existing home. This one's going to cost you $2,500 a month. This one will cost you $3,500 a month. Which one are you going to buy? So that's a word to people who, now, if you don't need to sell, who cares? Do whatever you want. But if you actually have to sell, if you're getting into distress, if you want to take some profits off the table, now this may not happen in your area, but in some areas, think of the people. I had friends in Florida, and a couple years ago, I said, because we're going to move, and blah, 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 we don't feel safe here anymore. We don't blah, blah. I said, I wouldn't wait. I would get your house on the market now. Well, now the property's down 100 grand at least, just in the last 2 years. So there's times when get ahead of the game. There's first mover advantage, right? And sell, drop your price or offer terms. You can get into a house. You think you're locked out. You're not necessarily. you may say, yeah, I'm going to wait for prices to come down or things like that. You might, but you don't have to. You got to, right? What if you could get rates are 5? What if you could get a 3 or 4% loan? Would you do it? Would the prices make sense? Maybe, maybe not. But especially if you get someone who it's an investment property where they're going to have a big capital gains hit, that's when it could really benefit the other party even more than other circumstances. I'll take a sip of coffee if anyone wants to share
How you
anything.
doing?
Mm.
Can you hear me? It's
Hey,
Al.
how's it going now?
Okay, how about you? Just getting back to the builders, I thought the big move was that the builders are turning their properties into rentals. I'm pretty sure I just read somewhere that that's why Warren Buffett, I think, just poured a whole bunch of money into one of the largest builders because it's build to rent to own, and especially with the new big beautiful bill, they're getting all sorts of tax advantages now. I thought that was the trend I read.
And you may be right, and I don't always, stay up on all of that. I'm just talking here locally, what I've seen happening here in my area. And if I'm sure, like, here we are, America, land of the renters, right? The American dream is kind of like, oh, we're going to have all these big corporate owners of everything. Everyone's going to be stuck in rents. And by the way, we rent our homes anyway. You know that? We're always renters because if we don't pay our taxes and insurance, guess what happens? Right? You don't pay your registration, your insurance, I don't know. We're always kind of just renting our lives from the system in a way.
Very
So
true.
yeah, but I think there's some strategic, from the very, very high echelons. Yeah, let's landlord nation and let's control everything and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, when I was talking to Aaron yesterday, I go, you know why you should consider owner financing? That for a benefit that you will never, ever have if you get a bank loan. There is a hidden potential benefit when you position yourself as a buyer, borrower, and you get owner financing from a seller. There is an opportunity that you will never, ever have if you get a bank loan. She goes, what is that? And what do you guys say? You guys have been around here a bit. What's the benefit you will never, ever have with a bank loan that you will have if you have owner finance?
It's an asset that you could get money for.
Okay, but if you got a bank loan, and thank you for playing, Al. Keep going. But if you got a bank loan, and the property actually went up in value, you could sell. A lot of people are underwater from their COVID purchases, right? They can't even sell for what they bought just a couple years ago.
Yeah,
What's the benefit? Go
you
ahead.
could sell a partial if you need cash.
But if you're the buyer, you don't own the note, you're paying on the note. The other person
Oh,
owns,
I'm
right?
sorry. I thought you
Okay.
meant the
No,
opposite.
no, no, keep going. Appreciate you, Al. Let's go. Let's keep doing it. Dave.
You could
There,
buy the
there's,
note back at a discount.
Oh, there we go. Ka-ching. Now that is the secret weapon that nobody ever sees, right?
I didn't hear what Dave said.
Say it again, Dave from California.
You could buy the note back at a discount.
So
Oh,
great. Right? So how can you do that, Dave? How will that work?
If the seller wanted cash all of a sudden and you're going to offer them some amount of cash that they need, but you're not going to give them full price for the note.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit more about you, Dave.
I'm mostly own rental property. I don't do a lot of owner financing or anything like that.
Gotcha. So you own a lot of rental property. Have you ever you haven't bought or sold with owner financing?
I haven't, no.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So thank you for playing. I mean, that is huge. There's one other big one, but here's what people don't get. Why would they take less? Why, if you owe them 300,000, why would they take 220?
Life happens, they need to cash out.
Yep. Thank you, Jax. I mean, the same way, why would someone sell a property at a discount? Okay, so what's the mechanism? What's the mechanism for making sure you're first in line? If the person who's receiving your payment needs cash, they die and the heirs and beneficiaries want to sell the note, how do you put yourself in first position? Christina, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so what I was gonna say, if anything happens with the market, you get in a bind, you got a human being on the other side that you can negotiate with.
Boom. There's another big one.
I think that's one of the most important things.
Yes, thank you very much. You've got someone with a heartbeat and who can work with you on the other side. A
Yep.
lot of us in the note business, people who buy non-performing loans, they're not trying to kick the people out necessarily. They want to work with people, within reason, right?
Yep.
If something goes bad with why do I want one more homeless person in my town? Of course I'm going to work with that person, right?
Yep.
Yep, that's big. But thank you very much for that. And Alicia, you said option. How do you take an option? How do you make sure you're first in line to have that opportunity? Oh, we're gonna get cash. And so let me stop. Zip. Boop. Let's talk about it.
I heard of something called a first right of refusal.
Yeah, I was gonna
Exactly.
say that. Mhm.
Fantastic. Yeah, you get a first right of refusal. You can do that even on a property you sell. Hey, if you ever decide to sell this property or you need to get out of it, could I have the first right to buy it back at the same price you'd sell it to anyone else? Anyway, okay, that's great. And how do you make sure a title company doesn't skip over your option? Okay, those are those are some extra down the things that you got to know a little more, and that's why I'm gonna, just like I did the seller financing mastery course for sellers, I'm gonna do one for buyers starting probably the end of this month or so. And for people who are really ready to pull the trigger, it's gonna be a challenge. Come on, let's make some offers. Let's do some deals. Let's do it. Okay, so, and of course that will turn into a standalone course that people down the road who don't want to pay for live participation can buy for 50 or 100 bucks, something like that, right? So, but when you're doing it live, we're going to work together on your deals. So anyway, especially agents. Agents are walking away from so much money. Fantastic. Because there's a chance that if they need to sell the note, and also if you're the owner of the property, guess what? You're the highest bidder for that note generally. You'll pay more than a neutral third party generally if you have access to capital because you know it and it's your place, right? So I've seen where people can go, okay, we got a third party bid. Someone's going to pay, this person has said, well, I'll pay 75 cents. So if you have a $100,000 note, third party might pay 75. But the one that lives there is going, shoot, I'll pay 80 or 85 all day long. That means I could get a 15 to 20,000 discount on a property. I just get to buy deeper and cheaper into my own property. Heck yes. Right. But also you don't have to, because if you have super great terms, why would you? Why would you take money that you are making 5 to 10% on and pay off a 2.5% loan? Maybe you wouldn't. It's just putting your foot in the door. When you buy a property, owner finance, if you're positioned correctly and you put the paperwork together right and you protect that option, then you automatically have an option on a note. So you bought a property and an option on a note at the same time. what I like to do, since I don't like to work super hard and I'm too old to be grinding really hard, I have to make every deal I do pay me one, 2 or 3 or 4 ways. I like that, right? So there's one more thing we haven't said. We said there's a chance you can buy deeper, basically get a short payoff on your own loan that you're paying on. Number 2, Christina brought up the fact that you can, you got a heartbeat. You get into hard times, someone's going to work with you. If you're not being a jerk, if you're not screwing them around, you legit, I mean, there was one time I took a shotgun. That's a trade. You don't have the payment this month. He's got a bunch of guns. Like, okay, I'll take a shotgun. Yeah, is this going to get me banned on YouTube or something? I don't know. Okay, like, fine, that's great. And some ammo. That's fine. I wouldn't do that. I don't need a gun every month for the next 30 years. But there's and someone else has their hand up. I'm sorry, I don't see a name.
Yeah, Nick here.
Nick, hey, great to see you.
Yeah. Well, one thing you could do if you want to make 12% of your money, you could offer to pay the next 12 months with 11 months of payments.
Excellent. Do you think you call up the bank, how far are you going to get with that person being paid $19 an hour? You want to do what?
Not going to happen.
Yeah, talk a little bit, Nick. Say, I didn't even think of that one. So now we got an extra one. Talk a little bit more about that.
For one thing, it kind of softens them to get them used to the idea of prepaying, getting prepaid for their debt. So,
Heck yes.
and so it also opens up a conversation to find out what their situation is. And who knows, maybe I can go further this year or maybe next year. But it's a conversation breaker in the area of them taking a discount.
That's freaking brilliant. Okay, that is buying your own note at a discount, but it's like a micro. It's like a sneak attack kind of. I love that. That's getting them ready. You know, that reminds me of a very painful thing. Thank you very much, Nick. That happened to me because I wasn't paying attention to stuff right. I had a deal where I was in the middle. I was in the middle receiving payments on this note. I kind of knew their situation. I didn't stay in touch. And somebody else came up behind me and swooped a deal right out from under my nose because I wasn't following up regularly with people. So I didn't know when a rough situation got terrible, untenable, and I left a lot of money on the table because I wasn't reaching out to the people I was paying, people I was in contact with, like, man, those are really painful things. So I love this. Right from the beginning, you're like, hey, just in case you have something coming up, and how is that 12% on your money? Tell me how that's pretty much a standard formula almost always, right? I can't remember. I want to say it was, what was that thing that Tom Henderson always said? It's always 35.07. I thought it was that. If you buy, it's always a 35% return on your money if you pay. I can't remember what he said. Does anyone remember that? Christina or?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What was that?
It was a 10 to 12.
Oh, 10 to 12. If you buy
Yeah.
10, if you give them 10 payments to cover 12 months, then that's always a 35% point.
Yeah, it's 35.99.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, Nick, thank you for bringing that up, because then already they see you as the piggy bank. Like people who have properties, they use them like an ACH machine when they can. Refi, pull out equity, refi, pull out equity, right? People will do that with their notes once they figure out you get an appetite for them. I love that, Nick.
Yeah, it's incrementalism, and then you also get an opportunity to see what they're going to do with the money. I want to know the situation.
That's fantastic. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's perfect. So now we have 3 good things. Number 1, you can have an option to buy your own note, and you can sneak attack it with Nick's plan. You can prime the pump. Let's just put in a little nicer words, right? You can prime the pump. You can get them to realize someone will pay cash today. You need new tires on your car. You know, have a medical bill. You have whatever, right? The third thing is you got a human being with a heartbeat on the other side. Things get rough. They'll work with you. Banks don't have the capacity or the inclination generally to do this. What's a number 4 reason? Huge. There's another huge reason that it could be really great.
Referrals to other people.
Oh, that's lovely. Referrals. Like, what do you mean exactly, Adam? Like you getting, say, hey, this person is a good buyer, they pay their bills, or did you mean?
Yeah, well, just you never know who's going to introduce you to somebody else.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Hey,
I was having a conversation about a challenge I was struggling with. That person introduced me to somebody. They thought, oh, you know, you just have
right.
a network of life.
You get known as somebody who they keep their word. They gave me this down payment and they've paid flawlessly for the last 26 months, you know? So we trust this person. Because a lot of sellers, they're like, I've never heard of this. And then they go, can you believe they go to their attorney and their accountant? And hopefully those people have their wits about them, but they say, they're trying to get me, my tenant is trying to get me to sell them my property. Can you believe what a scam this is? There's no bank involved. And they're going, that's not a scam. You know, get with your trusted advisors, your attorneys, your accountants, your financial advisors, mostly happy with assets under management. They don't want you to leave your money on the table working for somebody else, but it's not illegal. It's just people have never heard of it. Okay. So yes, you get known in your community, especially if you're like I am. I'm trying to build up as a portfolio of owner finance properties where I'm the buyer. Yes, I have notes where I'm collecting the payments, but I'm really happy to position. The positioning is phenomenal. And there's so many things that people don't see, the benefits that come a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that are invisible to people who aren't part of the misfit club, and you're weird and you do these investment things all the time, right? So Adam, great referrals, leads to other deals, fantastic. There's another one. I'm going to share this concept, which you already know. Most of you already know, you just didn't say it. Okay. My daughter was able to, my youngest daughter was able to, her partner in his divorce got a lot of money that he didn't really need. And she's always wanted to live on. She's always wanted to have her own healing center. There, I've got 2 kids that are massage therapists and really just healing beings. So she's always had this vision. So he took his portion of his IRA and he said, I will loan you the money to buy this commercial building plus almost all of the fix-up cost. So he funded, I don't know, 100,000 more than acquisition price on a commercial building. I think the debt service is something, it's less than 2,500 a month. Okay, on $1 million, 2,500 a month. So would she get those terms from anyone else probably in the whole world? Okay, no, it's like 3% financing, fully amortized. There was a period of interest only or no interest, no payments while she was rehabbing it, doing the tenant improvements and all that. What could she do? Now, she plans to own this forever, but if things changed and she has 3%, they're fully amortized many, many years, not even fully amortized, but the balloons in 30 years, right? So this made it very affordable for her to cash flow the property and stay afloat. If something happened and she needed to sell that building, how valuable would it be for her to be able to offer 5% financing, fully amortized, long-term financing? Do you think that might get her an extra 300 to 500 or more $1,000 on the place? right? Do you think she can offer a buyer much better terms than they could ever get for a bank? And since they don't need to pay 10% on a commercial loan, and she could give it to him at 5 or 6, potentially. Depends on whether she wants what she wants more. Does she want more the price? Does she want the present value of the note? Does she want the income? But don't you think that positions her to have a lot of options that she could even sell for probably 300,000 to 400,000 above market value in exchange for below market terms, right? So there you have the option. Even if something happens, she has the option. She could extend those terms and sell for a higher price and make killer cash flow on that thing. She could probably make $3,000 or $4,000 just collecting the arbitrage, plus a big down payment, right? So the list goes on. Can you see how far this rabbit hole goes? You should be a conspiracy theorist about owner financing. That's what you should do. Be a good conspiracy theorist about owner financing, because there's just one magical, powerful thing after another. That is why it's the most important positioning for me, is to buy owner finance properties and front end partials of other people's notes. It's the lending business when you originate financing. It's the note business when you buy that note on the secondary market, that loan on the secondary market, right? I don't know, they call it different things. If you go in the front door, it's the loan business, the lending business. You go in the back door, it's the note business, the paper business. Okay, the fifth thing is, after a few years, someone who maybe even wasn't so sure about it in the beginning, what if 5 years from now, and so they did owner financing, now they're addicted to that payment. They're going, this is great. Oh my gosh. No property taxes, no insurance, no tenant calls, no maintenance, no surprise roof repairs, sewer mains, whatever, hot water heaters. What if 5 years down the road, you want to sell that property and you go to your lender and say, hey, just so you know, I'm going to sell this property and you're going to get paid off. And they're probably going to go, oh no. Now they're going to take that capital gains hit that they deferred for all those years. They were earning interest on the IRS's money. Now you're going to pay them off. They like that cash flow. So what might you do? And Dave, you're master speaker of this, Kurtzman. What would that person might be able to be talked into, right? You're saying, I'm going to pay you off. And you say, oh, no, you're not.
Allow the note to be assumed, renegotiate the terms.
Or,
Transfer or collateral.
yep. Thank you. Is that Nick? Did you say
Yeah.
that? Yep.
I'm a land investor. I buy with notes and I sell with notes, and I have a clause in there that allows me to transfer the collateral, so long as the collateral is worth equal or more than the pre-existing asset.
Fantastic. Do you have like an example that you want to share? Like, I bought for this, I sold for this, and I moved that loan. Instead of having to pay it off, you get all the proceeds from the sale.
Yeah, typically my buy box is around 100,000,
Mhm.
80 to 100,000. And so let's say round number is 100,000. The property is worth 130. And I have a note. When I buy a property, I have a note created. And then I have a note buyer.
Seller carry note that
It's
is.
not, well, yeah, actually, if it's a seller carry note, yes, then I'll go directly to the seller.
Right.
I have two strategies on notes, but yes. So then go directly to, let's say I've paid or somebody else has paid on that for a certain period of time. Because I may have sold the property with seller financing, I've done a wraparound, but to get my piece out of it. But yeah, I will just go ahead and contact the seller, as you said, and let them know the situation. Make them aware that I have another specific piece of property give them all the information on it, get them to feel secure about the property, and then just, they have the option, yes or no. But I let them know that we do have a clause in there. And I mean, just to be transparent with them, I guess I could just do it stealthily, but I'm very transparent about it and just let them know this is the actual asset. Give them all the stats on it, and then let them know that we're going to be transferring it unless you object to this. Let me know.
Yeah, fantastic. So you work that into your paperwork where you don't even technically have to have their approval to walk the
That's
market?
right. It's a clause yeah, it's a small clause.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I have clauses that are that, but it always yeah, I never thought about sneaking it, but you're doing the right thing anyway, right? So but anyway, I know a guy, thank you very much. That is beautiful. So how about, like, this is one of that one little deal that I did in Bakersfield when I was so scared and didn't know what I was doing, turned into my best iconic deal ever. But at the end of the day, she didn't want to be paid off. That was her freaking $500 a month. She needed that for her retirement. That was more. She thought of that equal with Social Security or whatever, or better. I paid her better than any renter ever paid her. And so she didn't want to be paid off, but my person wanted to pay off, right? I was in the middle. So I took the whole payoff. And then she got a different property and I just kept paying, and it was long-term 5% financing. So who doesn't want private 5% financing that you could just keep using and using and using? Why are you going to pay 8, 10, 12 on hard money when you can develop your own private money, right? Doesn't work for everything, but there was a guy, Mike, dang it, my gray hairs are just not doing me good. There was a guy named Mike in Southern California, and he was a master at this. He did a lot of business in San Bernardino or Riverside counties, and he would go into C neighborhoods, buy with owner financing, get great terms. Then he'd fix up that property, sell it for more, take all the money, transfer that 5% or 4% or 3% financing to an A or B neighborhood. So he funded his long-term A neighborhood acquisitions with financing he got in the C neighborhoods. Okay, I'll pay you this for your property. It's actually more than it's probably worth, but as long as you give me, well, some people will give you 0% if you're bold enough to ask for it, but like 2, 3, 4, 5%. I don't think he even paid more than 5. That might have been the top. A lot of times he got 3 and 4% financing, sell it, take the money, walk the mortgage, put it into his A neighborhood property. Now, that was a different time in a different market, but just trying to open people's eyes. And if you, I hope you've had at least one aha moment for those of you on the call, of course, and listening afterwards. This is what's possible. Open your eyeballs, whether you're a professional or a principal. You're leaving so much money on the table. You have no idea by not understanding this. So I hope you'll tap into the course that I'm going to be doing. If you're not already subscribed, go over to notequeen.com, subscribe so you will be notified of this and other cool things that are here. Now, in the last couple minutes, Adam, is there anything you wanted to share? Because that was super fun, kind of talking over that situation we talked about. You don't have to. But anything you want to share?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like is it still going forward just the way that you put it?
In short, yes. So just to kind of let anybody else know, my name is Adam. I work as a realtor in Southern California. I'm based out of Pasadena. I've been a property investor myself for about 25 years now, and have made some small loans over the years. And a couple of years ago, created a self-directed IRA. So very familiar with the self-directed IRA. And then I used that to purchase a single family home that had some distress. And then when that home sold, kind of said, well, what else could I do with this? I had foolishly thought that I might be able to make loans to a partnership that I am in that needed some cash flow, but I know that the rules don't allow that. So just have always been able to know that should something come up, I could do it. So I'm selling a condominium that belongs to a very dear family friend. And as you likely know, condominiums right now have a lot of financing problems if they are behind on either their financial management or if they have issues in California with the balcony inspection laws that have recently come into play. And when you combine that with some other factors, I'm trying to sell a condominium in Los Angeles in an 8-unit development that just is poorly run. We had one escrow fall apart. I knew that I could sell it to an investor type buyer at a pretty large discount, you know, to entice them. But a family came in and said, listen, we'd like to buy it. We have a large down payment, but we don't think that we can easily get financing. They had reviewed, their agent was pretty sharp, and they had reviewed their the HOA documents that I had and asked if the seller might consider owner financing. I knew that they wouldn't be able to, the sellers, because of just their own family dynamics. But I said, you know, listen, if you've got a large down payment and things work out the right way, we can all come to an agreement. I'd be willing to make a loan. And I had one of those weird gut check moments where I didn't want to offer terms that were so high that they would walk away from it, but not too low that it would put me in a bad position. So I sort of took whatever the interest rate was at that day, added 0.25%, and said, listen, you know, if you're as strong of a buyer as you say you are, I'd probably offer you a note at 6 3/4 with 5-year terms, and we'll do interest only, and we'll go from there. So long story short, the loan funded yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And the escrow is scheduled to close on Monday. So just to put dollar figures around it, the purchase price on the condominium is about $515,000. The loan amount is $335,000. After talking with Dawn, I learned that I was making some pretty serious mistakes in terms of how I was structuring the financing. So instead of doing interest only, after talking with the borrowers, they agreed to do, and they actually wanted to do, an amortized loan. So we restructured it, Dawn, as a 7-year amortized loan. It sounds like they intend to pay it off more quickly, meaning make larger payments. And
So just to clarify,
yeah,
30 years, 30 year due in 7, right?
correct.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And then one of the things I learned is that any loan that's longer than 12 months that is amortized, you have to include an amortization table. So, you know, did that fairly quickly. And it's going through a kind of traditional California escrow with title insurance as well. So it's been an interesting learning process. One of the things that I haven't yet finalized, but hope to after everything records next week, is to transfer the servicing. I know that that's not a skill set that I'm good at. So I've been in touch with the company that Dawn recommended to do service transferring. And with any luck, it'll be a relatively straightforward setup.
Fantastic. And so let's talk about this from 2 levels. One, the agent level, and I see 2 hands raised, so thank you. Just give me 1 second. On the agent level, if you're selling to an investor person, what would the price go for? What would an investor pay cash for?
I mean, I would guess somewhere between 400 and 450,000 versus 500 to 550.
Okay. And what do you have? 6% commission on this?
Well, me personally, 2.5.
Okay, so I'm going to put 425 and just take the middle road.
Mhm.
Cash purchase, right? 425.025. So your commission was going to be 10,625.
Okay.
Now the sale price is, because of your generous funding, the commission is 12,875. So an extra couple grand and change, right? Extra $2,500 or so.
Mhm.
And then instead of your money sitting idle in your SDRA account with those quarterly fees eating away at it, now you're going to be making a fair amount. It's not a screaming deal, but it's fair, solid at a property you're comfortable with. You're in the business, you know what you're doing. So here's the thing where an agent made more of a commission, plus they were the investor on their own deal, right? And so you had a win-win there. If the only thing I was talking to you about, Adam, is I think you could have justifiably made more because you're the reason that family, those heirs and beneficiaries, got the price they did. right? So you're
Yeah,
taking.
and what was just a quick follow-up on that, when they finally, as a group, understood what was really going on, because it was sort of esoteric to them when I explained, hey, this is how it's working. They weren't quite fully aware of what that meant. And then over the course of about 2 weeks, a lot of the questions that they were thinking in their mind all of a sudden realized, holy smokes, without what you're doing, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. And you're taking on some risk.
Yeah. So did that translate into just gratitude or dollars too?
It's translated initially into an invitation for dinner.
Be a good dinner.
Yeah, but I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a property that belongs to a friend of my father's who's deceased, and so there's a huge amount of family kind of obligation, collateral. I want a win-win situation, and I come at most things that way.
And I think that's beautiful, and I'm not picking it apart.
No
But
problem.
if you were to do it again, you
Yeah.
could still be doing them a favor
hmm
and be paid a little better for the risk that you are taking on.
Yeah, that's definitely something I learned. But
Okay, because you could have structured this. You're still doing them a big favor. 425 over 515. They would have been happy if you got them a net of probably 490. You'd
Yeah.
still be doing them a $50,000, $70,000 favor, but you could have had you went through the front door. Nothing wrong with that, because you got to know roundtable investing. No matter what seat you're sitting at, you need to know how to make the money. But you could have let them do owner financing and then immediately bought that note next, right? At a little bit of a discount. So that would have minimized your risk and increased your yield. Maybe not a lot, maybe just up to 8 or something. 7, 8%, nothing greedy, because you know these people. And I'm just saying that it would have been fair. You would still be doing them a screaming favor if you would have actually got a 20,000 at least reduction, and it still would have been, you still got them 50 to 1,000 plus more than they would have had with any other realtor, any other person. And nobody else would have bought that note right at closing like you would have done. It would need to be seasoned for a while, and they probably still would have taken a 20% haircut on it. I don't know, 15.
Yeah, that's one of the things I have yet to learn.
Yeah, so
learning more.
just that was so fun working with you, doing that consult with you, and you're so sharp. You're like, I got off that call going, if we had a few more realtors like Adam in this world, holy cow.
That's very kind of you.
We would really, you're just such a delight of a professional powerhouse. And with people like you having their wits about them, how easy would it be for Adam to become the go-to person? I know how to get deals done. Doesn't even have to be your money. You got a deal falling apart. I know how to rescue that commission. How? Okay, let me show you. I can't do I can't work miracles, but I have a few tools in my pocket. There's at least a 20% chance I can save this commission. Right? So you become the go-to person. You said don't try to go to realtors. They're gonna give you brain damage, and I already know that. But when you find one,
Yeah.
let's get you. You're already there. Let's just get you a little farther down the road, and then you become, the broadcaster in your local market. And there's people that said, oh, there's some areas where no one does owner financing. BS. You can find what you're looking for, and there's always people in every market willing to do owner financing, whether they know it or not. You got to make an offer.
Yeah.
You don't know until you make the offer. But anyway, wow, we're over time. Nick, did you have anything else? Or is your hand still raised from before? You're muted.
Sorry.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, as a land investor, after reading your book, the seller's the bank, you kind of caused me an interesting problem. Where I'm at, there's a good problem. Where I'm at, there's a lot of homeowners who are out of town homeowners, and they own the property free and clear, and they're stubborn on their prices. And your book kind of kicked my ADHD brain into gear. And so it was perfect. And thank you for that. So not only is it there a tax advantage, but I don't hear anybody else talking about if you sell your house on terms, and let's say a couple, they take less than I think it's 80,000 a year, all the proceeds are tax free. And
Oh, wow.
so it's look it up. I'm not an accountant, but and so my marketing position is I can give you cash at a much lower price, and after taxes, this would be your net. What I'm looking for is a calculator, maybe that they can even fill in themselves. If I give you close to your asking price at let's say 0% interest is what I've been writing until I found out about imputed interest.
Yeah.
When I'm just selling that as business cost, but let's say whatever percentage the IRS is happy with, I'll give you your price at this interest rate. And then your net by taking it over in terms, plus the fact that if it's under this 80,000 per couple, you're tax free. So if I was to add up all the tax advantages on top of that, they're actually going to, over time, make more money than the property's worth. That's the calculus I want to be able to sell to people.
That's
Maybe you
fantastic.
can help me with that. I don't know. Is there a calculator for that?
You know what? We can make one now. I never say that I'm a tax person, and just like you, like we're not accountants, and I don't know, like different people's tax situation, and some attorney or accountants handle it differently. So I never can do that. But maybe we should
Well, if you could put in everybody's individual bracket so they can choose how much money.
you know what, Dave? If you want to, let's work on that together.
Okay.
Because even without that, though, even that sounds really amazing. But even without that, someone who carries, you give them an amortization, and if they carry even at a low interest rate, they're going to at least make double, at least double,
Yes.
sometimes triple, right?
Right.
Over time.
Yeah.
So that would be fun to work on, actually. If
Well,
that,
and that's actually something I can market. I'll give you, if it's worth it's a $400,000 house, I can give you, 500,000.
yeah,
And here's how that breaks down with the taxes involved. Or you could pay taxes on less.
yeah, exactly. Well, when I'm doing an LOI or whatever, sometimes I'm just saying I could pay you this much cash. I could pay you, I can pay you 300,000 cash. I can pay you 350 if you take this much now and this much from it. I can pay you 400. I can pay you 600 if
Yeah.
you this much. If they look at an amortization schedule, they'll go, "Oh, I'd really make this much in interest? Like, where else are you going to make that?" Right?
This is the cure for the stubborn sellers who own it free and clear.
Or the other one is just pivot, get a master lease, get a property manager, and make yourself a 300 or 400 spread.
Love
Okay.
it.
Okay, great. So I'm not going to try, if you don't want to sell and transfer the title, fine. Let me lease it. You're not going to have the landlord headaches, but I'm going to have a master lease, and I'm going to make the spread. And then maybe down the road, just like your little priming the pump, you're the first person they're going to think for, and we're going, you know what? I don't know what we were thinking. We'll sell it to you. We don't want the first time something comes up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're the person.
Love it.
Awesome, Nick. Fantastic. David Kurtzman.
Hi there. Do you have time?
We don't have time, but let's do it anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, Adam, welcome to the club. I've been a broker for 53 years, and I had over 200 agents over time, and I could only get one of them to actually understand this.
Isn't that wild?
Real estate agents are the biggest obstacle to creative real estate there is, and part of it is because their brokers won't allow them to do it. We want cash commissions, that's it.
Sure,
And
sure.
Coldwell Banker and all the different ones. And I happen to have part owner of a Remax office, but they don't teach it. They
I
teach.
think it's also just that, the potential for the realtors doing stuff that's so out of the box
Yeah.
illegal.
Liability.
You had liability issues. But most of, I mean, what I found is that most of them just don't have the risk tolerance or knowledge.
Yep. And yeah, and they aren't long-term thinkers. The
No.
first broker I went to work for happened to have started dabbling in this in 50 years ago. And he made the comment to me when I started, he said, "Do you really want to sell houses all your life?" And this is the way out of being a salesman.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being a real estate broker and brokerage owner, but all the focus was on the long term that we're talking about now. But I wanted to mention something else. Nick, you talked about, and you were trying to get me to say it, Dawn, and I didn't catch it, about transferring a note from property to property. Because I'm doing that on a $750,000 note that was in its seventh transfer. This guy was flipping apartment buildings. And I mean, whoever does that. Anyway, so it was transferred to a house in Genoa Lakes, which had just been fixed up. And we were doing a final transfer to his primary residence. And if you remember, I think our last time or two times ago, I talked about the springing guarantee.
Yep.
Where the note is secured by a property. He was moving so fast that we couldn't do the paperwork to keep up with him. And so the attorney created what's called a springing guarantee that basically says anytime the note is not secured by real estate, it's a personal guarantee. So it would just jump from one to the other. And in this transaction, we were just putting that in place. He signed all the documents. Everything was ready to go. Escrow was waiting for like $3,000 to record the documents. He's driving home from Reno over the Mountain Rose Highway, dies of a massive heart attack, and crashes, and the other people in the car, weren't injured. So now this note is still unsecured, but the springing guarantee is there that applies to the estate, and it's not being problematic. But as smooth a thing as you think you have happening, something can always come up that'll change it.
That's true. Yeah.
And I'm not sure I'll ever do that again, just because of that risk of the total unknown happening. But we had developed such a good relationship. So
Yeah, and Adam, I just want to, it may not be clear since this is the first time on the call with Mr. Kurtzman here, but he's actually not only the owner financing on behalf of buyer and seller clients, he's talking about taking commissions on an installment basis.
and you'll never get a broker to agree to that.
No.
Broker.
So one of the interesting benefits I have is I am actually a broker, meaning I have my sales license hung with the company, but I'd love to actually develop a conversation with you if you wouldn't mind over time. I should probably become an independent broker.
Well, the other option being, because what we did in our office, I always allowed it, and we did many of them, but especially when you're selling motels, stuff like that, there's always seller financing involved.
Yeah.
And so the seller would carry the note, and we would take a collateral assignment for the commission. So not only are you getting 8 to 10% interest on your commission, but you're getting it at like an installment sale, paying the taxes when you get it.
Yeah.
And as one agent told me once, he says, when you get paid off on one of those notes, you need the money more than when you first put the deal together.
Yep, you're
so
gonna need the money.
Right. Yeah. So it because it leaves more cash on the table to put the transaction together.
Right. Sometimes the commission, sometimes there's no room to make buyer and seller both happy. The commission doesn't fit in there. Well, take it on terms, or you want to walk away from a commission. Come on, people. Okay, well, fantastic. We're going to wrap this up. It's been a fabulous, absolutely amazing session because of you guys showing up. I really appreciate it and sharing all the ideas. If you haven't already, go over to notequeen.com, sign up so that you can figure out how to make this work in your life. And go out there and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. I will catch you next time. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.